From the United States Senate, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. From the House of Representatives, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson.
From the House of Representatives, Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And representing the Senate Republican leadership, Senator Joni Ernst.
Thank you, everybody. We are here united, Democrat and Republican, House and Senate, to say we stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. We stand. We stand. We stand. We stand. We stand. Now, my friends, there are no words for the horror that happened 1 month ago in Israel. The most Jews killed in a single day since the Holocaust. It brings back much darker days. And let us not forget history. History shows that when the world ignored anti-Semitism in the last century, it led to the worst catastrophe in human history. 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust. Let us not forget history. History shows that Israel was almost destroyed in 1967 and in 1973. We cannot, we must not let that happen again. Let us not forget history. History shows that anti-Semitism has been deep in the core of Europe for centuries, and that too many European nations have never been friends of Israel. And history shows that when anti-Semitism rears its ugly head, if it's not dealt with forcefully and directly, it grows into a deadly force. But my friends, history reminds us also of one thing, that even in its darkest days, the United States has always stood with Israel, and we will do everything to see that that never, ever changes. USA, 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 we are with Israel. Let us not forget, my friends, the evils of Hamas. When Hamas says from the river to the sea, they mean all of present-day Israel should be a Jewish free land. In fact, Hamas has said that what they did, the horror that they did on October 7th to the Jewish communities near the Gaza border, they should do to all Israelis. Just look at Hamas's founding document. It says, is that a Jew behind the tree? Cut down the tree so you can shoot him. That is the evil of Hamas. Never, never, never will we forget the evil of Hamas. Never again, never again, never again, never again. Now, my friends, the hostages, some of whose families are here. I hear there are parents here whose little 3-year-old girl was kidnapped by the evil Hamas. When I went to Israel a few weeks ago, right after the 7th, I met with the families of those being held, with 5 senators, Democrat and Republican. I heard of parents whose little babies were taken. I heard of brothers whose sisters were killed. I heard horrible stories about the brutality of Hamas, and the 5 of us, Democratic and Republican senators, wept and cried for a whole hour The sadness was so great, the evil so horrible. We will continue fighting for the release of all hostages till they return to safety. Let them go. Let them go. Bring them home. Bring them home. Bring them home. Like so many Jewish people, the horrors of October 7th reminded me of what happened to my ancestors in Western Ukraine when the Nazis invaded. So the minute I heard of what happened in January 7th, I knew I had to go to Israel. As the first-ranking Jewish Senate Majority Leader, in fact, the highest-ranking Jewish elected official in American history, I not only had a desire to go to Israel, I felt a special obligation to go. When I got off the plane, Israel was still shaken from what happened. I said to the Israeli people, Israel, we in America have your back. America feels your pain. We ache with you. We stand with you. And we will not rest until you get all the assistance you need. We will not rest until you get the assistance you need. My friends, in conclusion, Hamas's goal was to scare us. Those perpetrating the poison of anti-Semitism and bigotry around the world are trying to scare us. But we will not allow history to slide back to the days of the Holocaust when Jews were targeted and murdered and butchered. Instead, the Jewish people will be resilient. And today, all of you are here showing we will not hide in the face of adversity. In America and in Israel, Am Yisrael Chai. 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 The people Israel here in America and in Israel, the Jewish people will live forever.
Well, it is so good to be with you all. What an extraordinary crowd, and it was organized in just a few days. It's amazing, amazing. There are few issues in Washington that could so easily bring together leaders of both parties in both chambers, but the survival of the state of Israel and her people unites us together, and it unites all Americans, all Americans. Let me be very clear. The United States stands unequivocally with our neighbor, our friend, our ally, Israel. They're neighbors in a global sense, that's right. Last week, a bipartisan group of members stood in solidarity on the steps of the House to mourn the lives in the October 7th attack and to grieve with the families of Israeli hostages that are still being held in Gaza. We heard heartbreaking and tragic accounts of their kidnappings. And of course, as you know, many of those families haven't received an update on their well-being since that day. As a parent myself, I can begin to comprehend their despair. All of us feel that way. This morning, we watched the horrific film that was produced by Hamas from their own cameras as they committed the assault. It's unspeakable. The auditorium was full of Republicans and Democrats in the House, and they wept as we watched the film together. Most couldn't sit through it. These Israeli hostages were kidnapped in their homes by barbaric Hamas terrorists for simply being Jewish and living in Israel. As Prime Minister Netanyahu says so well, this is a fight between good and evil, between light and darkness, between civilization and barbarism. The calls for a ceasefire are outrageous. We stand with you in that. Hamas terrorists waged the bloodiest assault on Jewish lives since the Holocaust, and there are hundreds of hostages, many of them Americans, still stuck inside Gaza. Israel will cease their counteroffensive when Hamas ceases to be a threat to the Jewish state. But Hamas's genocidal and anti-Semitic rhetoric isn't just confined to Gaza, as you know. The war in Israel has awakened an alarming amount of anti-Semitism towards Jewish people here in the United States and across the globe. From the halls of Congress to college campuses, this rise of anti-Semitism must be stopped. We've heard many echo the Hamas rallying cry from the river to the sea, and I'm convinced that a lot of these college students that are engaging in these protests do not understand that is an explicit call for the extermination of Israel. It is happening daily in our country, as you know, and it is unacceptable for Jewish Americans to feel unsafe at home. It is unacceptable for Jewish businesses to face violence, vandalism, and threats. It is unacceptable for universities to allow Hamas apologists to assault and accost Jewish students on campus. It is unacceptable for any political leader in this nation to give credence to this dangerous rhetoric. We can and we must do more to stand with our great ally and friend. And it is my hope that this gathering today serves as a reminder to the entire world, but also to those within our own borders, that the United States stands proudly with Israel and the Jewish people forever, forever. Thank you for allowing us to be a part of this. God bless you.
Leader Schumer, Speaker Johnson, Senator Ernst, all those assembled, shalom. What an honor and a blessing to stand with you in solidarity during this very difficult moment for the Jewish people and for Israel. Hamas brutally attacked Israel on October 7th because Hamas wants to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. So let me be clear. We will never let that happen. Congress will continue to support in a bipartisan way the state of Israel and Israel's unequivocal right to exist as a Jewish and democratic state always and forever. Always and forever. Always and forever. From the very beginning of this conflict, President Joe Biden has strongly supported the state of Israel. And I strongly support President Biden's supplemental funding request for Israel, for Ukraine, and for humanitarian assistance. We must also decisively address the cancer of anti-Semitism with the fierce urgency of now. An attack on any of us is an attack on all of us. And we are going to do everything possible to stop the anti-Semitic attacks against our Jewish brothers and sisters. The United States and Israel have a special relationship. Our commitment to Israel's security is ironclad. And let me be clear, Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against Hamas terror. There's a question on the minds of many of us. Where do we go from here? We must stand with Israel in its effort to decisively defeat Hamas and make sure that this brutal terrorist regime can never rise again. We must make sure that every single hostage is returned home safely. And then we must stand together to secure a just and lasting peace between Israel and the Palestinian people. The special relationship between the United States and Israel is, yes, rooted in our shared values and our shared strategic interests. But the moral case for Israel is anchored in the painful history of the Jewish people. For centuries, Jews have been persecuted, brutalized by anti-Semitism, and violently thrown out of country after country. The Jewish people were violently expelled from Jerusalem by the Roman Empire. The Jewish people were violently expelled from Alexandria. The Jewish people were violently expelled from France. The Jewish people were violently expelled from England. The Jewish people were violently expelled from Spain. The Jewish people were violently expelled from Switzerland. The Jewish people were violently expelled from Portugal. The Jewish people were violently expelled from countries all throughout Europe. The Jewish people were violently expelled from the Middle East. The Jewish people were systematically murdered by the Nazi regime. The Jewish people were violently attacked by Hamas on October 7th, resulting in the largest loss of Jewish life in a single day since the Holocaust. So we are here, more than 100,000 people strong, to unequivocally declare never again. Never again. Never again. The state of Israel must always exist as a safe haven for the Jewish people. And so we stand together with the Jewish community in Israel. We stand together with the Jewish community in America. We stand together with the Jewish community all throughout the world. We stand together in the effort to crush anti-Semitism. We stand together in the effort to crush anti-Jewish hate. We stand together in the effort to bring home the hostages. We stand together in the effort to make sure that America will always be a safe space for the Jewish community in every single zip code. God bless the hostages. God bless Israel. God bless the United States of America.
United States of America, do you stand with Israel? Folks, I am here today as a longtime friend and staunch supporter of our greatest partner in the Middle East, Israel. In December 2014, before I was even sworn in to the United States Senate, I visited Kibbutz Nir Oz in southern Israel by the Gaza border. One of the kibbutzim that was hit the hardest by Hamas on October 7th. Israel and her people hold a very special place in my heart. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here to show your unwavering support for our Jewish brothers and sisters. What Iran-backed Hamas perpetrated on October 7th was pure evil, and those monsters deserve nothing short of complete and total destruction. 3 days after the heinous terror attacks, I was on the ground in Israel, meeting with American and Israeli families, and sitting across the table from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as opposition leader Lapid. We heard from a father who rushed over from the funeral of his son's 18-year-old best friend, who had just been brutally murdered at the hands of Hamas. We spoke with the family of an 80-year-old father of 5, a peace activist who drove Palestinian children to doctor's appointments, who was kidnapped from his home during the invasion. with tears in their eyes as family recounted the inhumanity of the attack, the destruction of their home, and ultimately the death of their brother while he was valiantly defending their home and family. In every meeting, the message was abundantly clear. Do not let the United States cower when the world starts to. Stand steadfastly in your solidarity. So we are here today as Republicans and as Democrats to assure you we will not shrink back and shudder in fear we will not shudder in fear as too many around the world already have. We will not sit quiet as anti-Semitism is being promulgated in classrooms and campuses around the country. The brutal reality of Hamas cannot be diminished. They murder babies. They rape women. They abuse the elderly. They killed 30 of our fellow Americans, hundreds of our Israeli friends, and are currently, right now, holding 200 innocent men, women, and children hostage. How anyone in America could sympathize with these terrorists is truly unfathomable. Friends, there should not be a shred of anti-Semitism in our country. Not now, not ever. Not only today, but in the coming weeks and months, as Israel fights to secure their most basic human right, the right to life, the United States must remain resolute. In the Senate, we will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you, our Jewish friends in Israel, the United States, and around the world. May God be with those who have lost a loved one, those who are waiting on the phone for an update about a son or daughter, those who are facing unprecedented harassment and hostility, and those whose family members bravely serving in the Middle East. And may God bless Israel. God bless Israel as she rightly defends herself against Hamas's brutal attacks. Israel, the United States will always have your back.
Let's hold up our hands and go. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel.